The cold Finnish winter was in full swing, and the snow fell heavily upon the forests surrounding the town of Häyhä Road. It was here that one man became the nightmare of the Soviets, a man who would become known as the White Death. This is the incredible true story of Simo Häyhä, the most lethal sniper in history. It was December 1939. World War II had been raging in Europe for almost a year, but now it had come to the frozen north. The Soviets were marching into Finland in what would become known as the Winter War. Finnish morale was low, as the Reds seemed endless, so any victories, no matter how small, were treasured. That's why, when the word spread through the ranks of the Red Army about a sniper picking off their men left and right, terror struck their hearts. And this wasn't your ordinary sniper? He didn't have a fancy sniper rifle, or even a scope, but he was able to pick off men at an incredible rate without ever being seen. At the center of the story is Simo Häyhä, a 27-year-old hunter and former cavalryman from a small village near the southeast coast of Finland. When the Russians invaded Finland, Häyhä felt compelled to defend his homeland. However, his military experience was mainly as a cavalryman, and he knew that his skills were unexactly suited to fighting against an invading force in the middle of a snowy winter. Despite this, Häyhä joined the Finnish army, and soon found himself in the Battle of Häyhä Road, which had been going on for weeks. The Finnish troops were trapped in a pocket surrounded by tens of thousands of Soviets. Things were looking grim for the Finns. Häyhä's commanding officer, Captain Alfred Glissman, knew that they needed a miracle to get out of this situation. The Germans were on their way to relieve them. But until they arrived, something needed to be done. While thinking of a solution, he saw a young recruit named Simo Häyhä sitting in the trench. He looked thoughtful and distant, like he was daydreaming rather than worrying about the situation they were all in. Seeing this, Glissman approached him and asked him if he was all right. Häyhä shook his head, apologized, and said that he was fine. But Glissman could tell that there was something on his mind. After some gentle coaxing, Häyhä finally opened up to his captain. He told him that he used to be a hunter back home and that he missed his rifle, which he had to leave behind when he was called up to fight. Glissman listened patiently, then a light bulb went off above his head. Glissman explained to Häyhä that they were in desperate need of someone who could pick off the Russian officers. They needed someone who could fight with accuracy and precision. Someone who could take out the enemy from afar without being detected. In other words, they needed a sniper. Häyhä thought about this for a moment. He knew that he was good with a rifle, but he had never done anything like this before. Still, he was a patriot, and he wanted to help his country, so he agreed to give it a try. Glissman gave him a Finnish M2830 rifle and showed him where he could set up his position. Then he left him to do the rest. That night, Häyhä set up his position in the forest and waited patiently for the enemy to show themselves. As the first rays of sunlight peeked through the trees, he spotted his first target, a group of Russian soldiers walking through the forest. He took aim and fired. One of the soldiers crumpled to the ground. Häyhä had made his first kill. Over the next few days, Häyhä became a one-man killing machine, picked off the Russian soldiers with ease, never taking more than 3 shots. At first, the Russians thought that they were being attacked by a whole squad of Finnish snipers, but they soon realized that it was only one man. Despite his incredible skill, Häyhä was almost captured by the Soviets several times. Once they even managed to get within 30 meters of his position, but he managed to escape. The Soviets tried everything to find the sniper, but he was always one step ahead of them. Häyhä was eventually forced to abandon his position and move to a new one. But by then, the damage was done. He had become a legend. The Soviets were terrified of him, and the Finnish soldiers revered him. Häyhä had become known as the White Death. But how did he manage to achieve such success? Häyhä's success as a sniper can be attributed to a number of factors. First and foremost, he was an excellent shot. He was a former hunter, after all, and he had a natural talent for marksmanship. Secondly, he was patient and disciplined. He knew how to stay still for long periods of time without making a sound. This allowed him to get close enough to his targets to take the shot he needed. Finally, he was cunning and intelligent. He knew how to read the enemy and anticipate their movements. He also knew how to use the terrain to his advantage, setting up his position in such a way that he was difficult to detect. The Russians tried everything to stop Häyhä, but nothing worked. They brought in artillery to bombard the area where he was hiding, but he always managed to escape unharmed. They sent in search parties, but they never found him. even offered him a reward of 10,000 francs if he would surrender, but he refused. He was a soldier, and he was determined to do his duty to his country. Häyhä continued to pick off the Russian soldiers until he had taken out over 500 of them. However, Häyhä's run of success couldn't last forever. Eventually, the Russians managed to get the drop on him and he was forced to flee. He managed to escape, but he was injured and had to be evacuated from the battlefield. When the war ended, Häyhä was a hero. He'd become the most successful sniper in history. After the Winter War, Häyhä continued to serve in the Finnish army, eventually rising to the rank of captain. He was awarded the Mannerheim Cross, the highest military decoration in Finland, as well as numerous medals and commendations from other countries. He remained in the army until 1945, then retired to a life of hunting and fishing. He lived a quiet life for the rest of his days, but his legend continued to grow. During the continuation war between Finland and the Soviet Union, another Finnish sniper named Vasily Vakila came along. Häyhä Vakila picked off the Russians with ease. He became known as the White Death, too, though many believe that this title was actually given to Häyhä instead. Anyway, Vakila was eventually captured by the Soviets and executed. His body was never recovered, but his legend lived on. In the years since Häyhä's death, many people have tried to claim that he never actually killed 500 Russians. They say that the number is exaggerated and that there is no way to verify it. However, there are also plenty of people who claim that the 500 kills is just the tip of the iceberg and that the real number is much higher. They say that Häyhä actually killed more than 1,000 Russians, making him the most successful sniper in history. There's even a theory that he actually killed more than 2,000 of them. Whether or not these claims are true is up for debate. But one thing is certain, Simo Häyhä was an incredibly skilled sniper who became a legend during the Winter War. Simo Häyhä was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He was a true hero who defended his country with courage and precision. He was the White Death, and he will never be forgotten. Now check out another legendary sniper. This man was a ghost. No one could see him. Or watch how this sniper used a .50 caliber rifle to take out 6 enemies in a row.